have coming up? What does that mean?
Mama P's in the background. Friday, May 5th. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. Thank you guys for checking this out. Just me and Brandon Pedersen, aka Papa P, at Mr. Real on IG. Thank you guys for checking this out. Make sure to follow on all channels, whatever your favorite is. And thank you guys for tuning in. Been doing this for a while now. Just the two of us today. Papa P, how we doing over there? How we living in Lakeland?
I'm living, bro. I was just looking at.
You living?
I was looking at some houses. There's a guy, as a real estate investor, there's always this tear between making money and just not being a complete piece of shit. There's a guy that builds homes here, and so you know how I talked about like that. Really, a couple episodes ago, we talked about like the nicest place in Lakeland. It's around a lake. It's where all the rich people want to go. Well, just like a lot of places, like everything goes in cycles. You have these old homes, 1950s on decent sized lots, maybe 0.4 acres, almost a half an acre, which is big for Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this fucking guy, he finds, I don't know, because he pays a shit ton of money for them. He finds these houses, tears them down, subdivides the lot into like nothing, and he puts a cookie cutter right there. And I was just looking at him, and he's selling a cookie cutter for $650 on this, and I'm like, this fucking guy, he does not, it's not creative, it's nothing. He puts them in the nicest neighborhoods next to like these fucking nice houses, modern houses, classic houses, and then you got this fucking cookie cutter. He did one, he split 1/2 acre lot into three. He got it approved for 3 different lots, and he sandwiched them together, built 3 2-stories, and he makes a shit ton of money doing it. But as somebody who lives in that neighborhood, you look at it and you're like,
is it like just an eyesore thing, or is it bringing down the value of other properties, or
not
what?
bringing down the value because, obviously he puts out a good product, not saying that, but when you're talking about an area that was developed in the 20s, you have a lot of like classic homes and people with money who actually build custom, they spend millions on building their custom homes in this neighborhood on double lots, and then this guy comes along, grabs these ones, and then throws up 3 fucking, and they're cookie cutters. And being in Florida, like a Florida cookie cutter is nothing. It's just a concrete square. It's just boom. And the 2-story ones, anyway.
Is it a fair question to ask what you would do? Like, how would you monetize if you got that deal or that lot? Or
that is the emotional tear right there, because I get what he's doing financially. I'm not sitting here saying the guy's making bank, bro, because he's a builder.
He's playing Monopoly.
Yeah, he's doing it. And so, but you look at it from like a improvement perspective or a character and aesthetic perspective. I don't know the word. I would like to think I would be good enough to build one really nice house there and sell that on spec. However, financially, it makes more sense to do what he's doing. I just don't like it. Like, it's just, you look at him and like, you're like, oh shit. I'm like, can somebody stop this fucking guy from doing this? Like, put the cookie cutters in those subdivisions down in like South Lakeland, but don't ruin this neighborhood. Because it's just, I don't know. But yeah, it's the name of the game though, right?
It is.
As investors, we sit here. It's the other part of it is like when I bought that lot I was going to develop, there was a lot of like old oak trees I had to tear down. And so you look at it from a perspective of like, you'd like to say from an environmentalist perspective, I would never do something like that. How dare you tear down all these trees? And, but then you spend $100,000 on a lot to build some multifamilies and these trees are in the way and you dumped $100,000 into buying this piece of dirt. Guess what? You're pretty quick to just say, let me tear those fucking trees down. They're in my way. So I don't think I'd be any better than him. I just,
it's easy to observe. When it's not you, it's easy to observe,
easy to observe and to judge when it's not me doing it. But I just, I hope he just stops, bro. Just hope he stops.
Well,
but he could pay more than people like us, because whereas somebody like me coming in trying to buy that house on a double lot or a triple lot, and I'm only going to rehab a home, I can't pay that homeowner as much. My homes, he built 3. He sold one for $990K, so almost $1 million, and the other ones are like $750,000. So he put out $3 million worth of product almost, or $2.5 million worth of product. that makes sense that he could then go and pay $350 or $400 or whatever his cost was. I don't know, for that house, because he found its highest and best use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas me, I was going to use it for its lowest use, maybe
Mm-hmm.
lowest and best use, but it definitely wasn't its highest and best.
Yeah, different ARVs. You guys would be apples to oranges.
So I'm remodeling an old 1950s with 8-foot ceilings. You know what I mean? Like, there's only
Yeah.
so much you could do in a neighborhood where the affluent people really want to be. And as an affluent person, you're just looking, do I have the bedrooms? Do I have the size? Am I in my location? It would be nice to have a phenomenal home on a big lot. But outside of that, to get into my location, you have to sacrifice other things. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, dude. I was just looking at them.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, people are the most fascinating creatures on the planet here, just driven by scarcity or like survival, emotions, everything. So
No.
who knows? Who knows what Papa P would have done in that situation? If anybody has any leads like that, send them over to Papa P and see what he does with them.
Not any better, because when it comes down to money, man, like I said, I don't think it's right to cut down trees. But when I bought that lot, I was ready to cut the trees down, bro. I was ready to say,
Yep.
fuck all these old oaks. The city told me how much I had to pay to cut them down. And I'd be like, fine, because apparently there's a tree fine where you have to pay to cut down trees of a certain width, or what do you call it, diameter, circumference. And then if it goes past that, you have to pay a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one on our yard that we're going to be cutting down. So, everything's easier said when you're not in the actual situation. Listen, dude.
Wise words from a very decent man.
So I did some evictions this week. Let me plug my computer into the internet. I did evictions this week, and it was wild. So my wife runs the park. I don't actually run that side of the business. I truly am outside of it, other than like I'm the guy on the ground, or I'm the one acquiring the deal, or talking to wholesalers about other mobile home parks they're trying to sell me. But I don't property manage it. I don't pick up the phone. I don't collect rent checks. Like, I don't do any of that since the day we bought it. So I'm over here listening to her and getting copied. I'm getting CC'd on emails from the attorney. And this is the first eviction she's ever been through. I've done evictions for myself and for banks, because I used to be an REO agent. And they go wild every time. So in Arkansas, you could kick them out pretty quick, and just like most places. But the problem is they had filed. So these people, we filed eviction on them. They're late every month, and they're always 1 month behind. So they pay April rent by the time it's May 1st. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're always 1 month in arrears, catching up, promising the stars, all kinds of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also two of the most pain in the ass freaking people there. So we were kicking them out no matter what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So we hire an attorney. He files it in the wrong county. So we waited like 3 weeks to get all the way up to the judge. One of the judges was a pain and gave it an extension. Finally goes to the sheriff. They realize it's in the wrong county. We have to reissue it, because we're right on county line, essentially, and the lawyer didn't catch that. So these people had almost 60 days, maybe 45. They got served. First, you serve them. Anyone who does an eviction knows you issue your 3-day pay or quit. I was out there at the time. I delivered the notices, I think, the first time, and letting them know that it was going to happen. Of course, they don't believe it's going to happen, Carlos. They don't believe it.
Well, they're still paying rent. It's just on their terms, when they get to it.
Yeah. On their terms
they're doing the landlord a favor by paying to live there.
100%. And that was the general attitude across the park, because you got to understand, we bought this from a mom and pop who, he would remove. There's a difference between removing people and asking people to leave versus an eviction. Eviction is very forceful. Sheriffs, shit in the yard, like people.
You see it on like TV and stuff, like cops and stuff like that.
That's basically what it is, right? Like, there's a difference. There's a huge difference. And anyway, so they were just a pain. So we issued them, and they called the office. They didn't think it was going to happen. And I guess whenever we made that mistake and we had to go refile, they probably thought we were bluffing, because a month goes by, nothing happened to them. So they don't prepare anything. They pay again. We thought we were going to lose rent, because if I was them and I knew I was getting evicted, you want to know what I would have done? I would have not paid a dime. I would have been like, cool, I haven't paid you your February rent. I'm not paying you fucking March. Like, I'm just going to keep staying here. But they figured that if they just kept doing what they were doing, we had bluffed and we would just keep them. We would keep going with this cycle. Anyway, dude, it gets down this week, last week and this week, as the sheriff goes and knocks on their door. All of a sudden, they hire an attorney. Where they get the money for an attorney? Beyond me, because they can't even make the rent. All of a sudden, the one lady was like $1,400 in arrears, something like that. Money mysteriously shows up in our account. Just the online pay. They're still behind because May rent's coming up and they haven't paid all the late fees, but they paid the last two $700 payments.
Mm-hmm.
But they had missed their date with the court. So they had 5 days to respond to argue. So they missed their date, and I was going to pull it up. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you see
I
it?
got you. Yeah.
You got to show it. So they handwrite a letter, right? And notice, like, this one person, like, so I left a part out. So on the day they had gotten served, that day we got a bunch of work orders. Just like things we've never heard about before, just issuing all kinds of work orders.
Right. Not a coincidence at all.
Yeah, not a coincidence. And then we get their handwritten thing, right, with some pretty legal jargon in here. Like, I feel like they definitely were using ChatGPT to help.
Right.
But they had missed the deadline. But they thought by responding, they bought themselves more time.
Mm-hmm.
Until our attorney decided to let them know that, no, that is not the case. You're getting kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently the attorney told them that because they hadn't paid May rent, if they paid May rent, right, that we could not kick them out. No shit. The day before Wednesday, so Tuesday night before they were getting evicted, they paid May rent in advance. Like, where did all this money come from that you're now? So apparently she's claiming that she took out a loan to pay her rent, and now she has no money to move anywhere, and she's begging us to stay. Begging us to fucking stay. I don't know, dude. Like, they had written, like, none of this shit is true. None of this shit. Defendant pays for damages or prays for damages or other relief and other fourth relief as the court deem just and proper. The claims be dismissed. What something and plaintiff take nothing. I don't even fucking can't read this writing. But it's just plaintiff claims are barred in whole or in part because plaintiff breached our contract. It's just wild, dude.
That is.
We have, and then the other one. Here's the other one they wrote to.
There we go. I can read that one a little better.
Yeah. I am disabled and on 100% disability. They're trying to invoke HUD and Section 8 housing. Not to mention the fact that landlord had prior knowledge of things that needed to be fixed around my house, like the AC did. This is the one with the work order. She issued all these work orders the day she got served and then wrote in the letter that we had known about it and then hadn't done it.
Yeah, for like a second.
Yeah, and then she apparently scribbled all this out, didn't like this. she just continued. Management had knowledge of these things. I am also not very technologically savvy, and with their pay system online, I never received anything from them stating to pay online. Listen, bro. Listen. It's all over Instagram because I was posting my stories of me hand delivering letters to people about how to pay their rent online. Not to mention, we emailed everybody and sent it in the mail. It's just wild. They will lie. So our lawyer had said the same thing. They're like, every time they email me or send these things in, their story contradicts their previous story. I wouldn't worry about it. On Tuesday, they sent an emergency relief request to the judge to stay the eviction. Judge denied it. On Wednesday, the sheriff was there booting everybody out. Dogs, we had to call animal control. Dogs were there. Like, gosh. One family, they abandoned their dogs, so couldn't get in. So we called animal control. The one lady showed up trying to collect her fucking dogs, yelling at Brittany on the phone. It was wild, dude. But they're out. And here's the funny thing. On that day, all of a sudden, the rest of our park made their payments all at once.
Oh
people that typically pay on the 15th or the 10th, or one lady who says she can't pay to the 20th, all of a sudden our bank account just had like an extra 10, 12 grand worth of rent payments that all came in within a 24-hour period. Brittany was telling me this. She's like, I don't know what happened. She's like, but all of a sudden people just paid on time.
Cracking the whip. It's a tight knit community in those trailers.
Well, they're right on the front street. So the way it loops is like they were lot 3 and lot 18, which is like the front lot. So like you can't miss what happened. You see multiple cop cars there. Our lawyer was there. Our locksmith was there. You know what I mean? You see
word travel clicks.
Yeah.
Word travel quick in those parks.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. And on that same day, we got notice from somebody else that they're leaving. So it has cracked the whip in the park.
Well, I'm glad. Mama P must have some pretty tough skin if she's the one that's running all that stuff.
No.
No.
It was tough. It was tough on her. It was tough because, like, listen, as a mother, right? She's getting, the people are using against her the fact that they have kids. Like, you're kicking my, that's what they say, Carlos, is they don't say you're kicking me out. You're going to make my 4-year-old homeless. What am I supposed to do with my daughter? Live under a bridge? Why would you do this to us? And that's the emotional plight that they use against people like us as landlords, right? Like, you're doing this to my family. We have no money. But you did, because within the span of a month, she came up with like the one lady came up with like $2,100 or some shit like that. Like,
yeah, that people will become more resourceful when they're in a corner, backed into a corner like that.
And the other one, the meth head, we were missing a fridge in our one unit we had just replaced. Brittany and I know we had a fridge in there. I went in there, I saw the fridge. There's pictures of a fridge. All of a sudden, there wasn't pictures of a fridge. One of the neighbors reported the one that we booted out was going into our vacant units trying to steal stuff and stole a fridge. We have no evidence of it other than word of mouth. But that fridge that we were trying to figure out how it got stolen, I think we know how it got stolen now. And then that's probably how she sold it and then helped pay some of her rent. So basically, we paid ourselves with our own refrigerator. So, but they're out. They're out, bro. They're out. That's all that matters. We're going to probably have to spend about $8,000 on each of them on a rental turn because they trash.
Sounds like a lot for each one. $8,000 for each one.
It's the floors. We don't replace cabinets, but the floors are to put the waterproof laminate throughout gets pretty expensive because they're large mobiles. They're not little, they're 3.2s, 1,200, 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, those are big. So
we pay to replace all the flooring if it's not already laminate.
Yeah. Wild, man. Well, I'm sure that you're at least can find some solace and happiness that you're in it sounds like landlord friendly state. I know some of them are.
That's why we bought Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you knew that going into it, obviously.
We could, if we wanted to, file. Well, she paid, so we couldn't. But it's a criminal offense since the 1900s. Since it was like 1901, there was a law that made not paying your rent a criminal charge, where you could go to criminal court and actually go to jail for it. If
do like hard crimes.
If a landlord wanted,
what are you in for? I paid my rent on the 15th.
Got him. No, but I mean, again, that they caught up payment. But since the previous owner didn't have them on annual leases, we were on monthly. We could just boot them out anyway. I mean, it was okay. They didn't meet any of the requirements. They didn't respond in time. They didn't follow any of the rules. They thought it wasn't going to happen. And I told Brittany the only advice I could give her, which eased my conscience as a landlord back in the day when I was handling my own rentals, was just to be honest with them and not try to avoid them, not try to tell them you would think about it or work things out. Just keep repeating. It is going to happen. You need to find another place. I know you don't think it'll happen, but it is going to happen. And just keep saying that. So that way, when they try at the very last minute to use guilt against you, you know that you did everything in your power to warn them that they were getting booted out. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing that ever made me sleep at night from booting people out for the bank. Because the bank didn't give a shit. They were up in New York or somewhere else. They just give me an order to go do it. I have to go through the whole eviction process for them.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't care.
Yeah, that's tough, man. You need to have – that's good advice, though. Just flat out tell them straight out, like, hey, this is actually going to happen.
This is going to happen. Anymore. Gonna happen. Well, I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna do this. You can do whatever you want. You're still getting booted out. That's fine. It's going to happen. You're getting evicted. My advice to you is start looking. Well, what if I do this? My advice is to start looking.
Mhm.
That's all. You just keep saying that to them.
Wild. Well, what else did you have going on this week? I guess I'll wrap really quick. I had good to
What'd
be
you got
back
going?
in
I
Maryland,
saw you were at some event.
or not back in Maryland, back in Florida. I was visiting Maryland. Yeah, went to an event that's getting some solid momentum here. A lot of wholesalers in South Florida. So went there, got to see some Investor Fuse members, Lex Levinrad. He does a lot of coaching down here. Alex Shaw. Trying to think. I think a couple other ones, but yeah, it was fun. It was right close. The new venue is going to be right by my house, like a 15-20 minute walk. But it was a lot of fun. The main presenter I actually didn't catch, but it's a lady that started a brokerage, has like 20 agents. I can't even recall what she was talking about. I was there more so for the networking. I like just touching base with everybody, meeting people, moving and shaking, baby. But good to be back in the home routine, and looking forward to this month, man. Looking forward to be back and home a lot this month. So I'm excited for it. Want to hear how the REI Op Center webinar, I think it was, went, because I know that we were talking right before that.
Well, the webinar is actually, we are officially onboarding our first. I mean, we've had other people, but like this was our first big group. I've never done. How do you word it? Like, it's like an onboard training group coaching type of onboarding session. So like I'm training a group of people right now, not just on using REI Op Center, but like on data. I don't know, man. Like a lot of people blame sales as their problem, but a lot of it goes back to data. I was helping someone the other day, and like, bro, like it just boggles my mind. Like I'm going through and I'm looking at all of his stuff, and he was sharing a screen and like looking at the way he was trying to find his files. It took forever. It was like a clusterfuck of shit. He couldn't find any files. Nothing was named similarly. He had no organizational system for it. Like he had duplicates or triplicates. And then I opened, so then he couldn't figure out why like his phone numbers weren't working. And the software system was saying they were all duplicates. And he was trying to like, he was like, dude, like, I don't know what's wrong. Like your thing, it's not working. And I'm like, listen, man, just send me this. Give me your logins. I'll look. I spent like a couple days and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, send me another file. Like my file uploaded perfectly. And I go into his and all of his data is duplicated. They had made a mistake. They didn't know. All of his files were only 100. So he had a list of 5,000, but every 100 was the same data repeated. And he had no fucking idea. No idea. He's trying to market this. And there are just 50? Would that be 50? 50 100s, 50 different copies of the same people inside of the list. And that's kind of what we go over, is like how to avoid that type of stuff.
And that's an extreme example of it, of just like lack of organization / awareness of what's going on.
Lack of organization. A lot of people say they have organization for it, but I don't think they do, because as I talk to more people, they have some form of it, but they're not really built to scale their data. Like, how much data do you think the average person really has?
How many records? I mean, that's a lot. That could be a large number. I mean, completely guessing, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 records.
Yeah, like a lot of people start out pulling the 5,000 or 10,000 records, right? Like they start out with these subscriptions, pulling them. But so let's just say that. Let's just say you're a newbie and you're pulling like a 10,000 list because PropStream lets you. Okay, and you're on PropStream, and that's not bad. That a solopreneur, you get that should turn into 30,000 lines of phone numbers if you skip trace it correctly, right? And that's with like a 75-80% hit rate. Not bad. That's going to keep you busy probably for a month and a half, depending if you have a cold word. What do you do next month? And then the month after. And then the month after. So you start getting all this data, but they don't really plan for it. They just keep doing the same thing. What you did for your first list, you can't do for your 25th list. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not but their organizational system doesn't grow with them. So what we go over is a way to have it ready to scale. Because that's what everybody wants to do, is buy more data, do more marketing. So we go over a system and a process on how to get your data to scale, and we use REI Ops Center to do it.
What are kind of like any foundational or like basic pieces of that you could
What do you mean?
share?
What do you mean?
Like what are kind of like the stepping stones or foundation of having your operation and data ready to scale? Obviously, some of it's some level of organization or some level of having it organized correctly, like this guy or gal had an issue with.
So I think the biggest I have seen, and you'd be surprised, like there's a couple people that even you and I both know that they do a lot of deals, but like they don't even have a shared drive.
Man,
They don't have a shared drive. Their data is like stratified over multiple people's computers. And then a lot of it, like one person, like, well, it's all up in the cloud, like not in the cloud, but in the, what do you call it? Like the wherever they bought it. You know what I mean? Like on that person's website, that's where our data is. Like we deleted everything once we got the phone numbers, like, and that's on so and so's computer. And it's like you can't build a proper system. One, you need a shared drive. You need to make sure you own all of your data. Because if there's a mistake somewhere down the line, you have to go figure out where that person fucked up. And that means you have to troubleshoot. Troubleshooting means you work backwards through it, right? Like, here's the problem. Let's go back through the process and figure out where the kink happened. But they basically have to start from scratch. Like one guy I'm talking to, he's got to go rebuy all of his data. He doesn't have any of it. And if he wants to do stuff with that, all he has is the phone numbers. But you're missing out on a lot of stuff once you have that. So I think number one hallmark is to own your data. Like make sure any VA that you're doing, anybody is saving it on a shared drive with some system and convention, and we go over the process. So like there's 8 steps we go through. It's called locate your data, right? It's actually on my locate your data, interrogate your data, organize your data, right? Lock your data in, which is for buying it, load it into REI Ops Center, and then we fire it out for marketing and skip trace, and then we reload. And it's pretty easy, but through all those steps, there's a system that could be followed by your employee that no matter what you do, they know exactly what to do next. You could be not available. People don't need, like the one girl was like, well, because the VAs come on and do the training with us. She's like, well, it's on my boss's. And I'm like, so all that data we just got for you guys, like it's on his computer? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, fucking have him put it in the shared drive. And that's the problem, right? Like,
yeah,
you'd be surprised. People think they have a process, but they really don't.
I'm not too surprised because I feel like I see that a lot. That's the main customer avatar that we both work with. I would assume most people not to have processes. I'm more I'm surprised when I talk to somebody, whether it's a sales call or I guess mainly a sales call or maybe somebody I randomly get connected with that is like really dialed in with systems and processes. I guess I could be more expecting of them to have at least a shared drive on Google for data, things like that. But I feel like that's I feel like most of this industry are people that are just like sales, get me in front of a seller, let me get to a buyer, sell him a deal. So I'm not too surprised by that. And I think that's why you guys provide a value in the market space because people need it. What you're describing, we don't have to go into the whole, everything that you do on the eight steps there in depth, maybe another episode. But that reminds me of something that John did for a tech master class that we put out a couple years ago. And it was almost like best practices for managing like your tech software, your team. So it talked about like Google Calendar, different security measures you could take, setting up like 2-factor authentication.
John loves that shit. Him and his fucking passwords, dude. I'd be like, yo, John, let me get a password for such and such. I need to log in. And it's like a 20-digit with symbols and letters and numbers. I'm like,
it's like if you literally just take your keyboard and you're just like,
yeah, that's what his passwords are. And it's just this wild shit. Mine, like, if you want to log into mine, just type in the word password. Like, mine's always simple, and I hate when they make me change it. I'm like, like, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't use password as a password. I'm like, fuck you, don't tell me what I could do.
All your passwords are like, and you have to change up to this, but it's like Mountain Valley spring water.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my favorite password. That's my password, bro. Like, but no, you can't use that because I've tried using password in my password, and then the website's like, you cannot use password as your password, and I'm like,
That's so funny. But yeah, John had a really good tech master class that went into like everything like that. I want to say like storage of data, two-factor authentication,
Yeah.
email, connecting your email to like a domain and getting a business email
That
set up.
bothers me. That bothers me. Bro, you know how many people I see that do deals like, and the one person I'm doing training with, same thing. They don't have a company email. It's their name. It's their name, company name at Gmail. It's like, do you know how cheap and easy it is to just get a fucking Gmail account? Go buy your domain on GoDaddy, link it together with Gmail. You're done. Like, it's ibuyhouses at gmail.com.
Yeah. I've gone back and forth. I've gone back and forth on that. I've used to feel strongly similar to how you do about that. And I think so many new investors come into the market space. Like I think we said via Josh Miller, it's like 20 or 30,000 people a month come into some form of learning or trying to get into real estate investing, which is crazy. But I get
I
it that
did not
there's
know that. Is that what Josh says?
yeah.
Really? And
We
I
talk about
believe
that.
it.
I forget that
Listen,
was
Josh Miller knows his
yeah. He
statistics.
knows his stats.
So is he saying that's an actual fucking stat? 20 to 30,000 people a month in some shape or another are trying to learn real estate.
Yeah.
Holy.
That's why people that sell either like lead gen or newbie stuff, that's why like even real estate coaches, so many of them target the newbie because it's just a constant same thing like us going after motivated seller leads. It's like that's where the most of your leads are going to be. New people coming in.
Huh.
Yeah, we had mentioned that on an episode a while ago.
Bro, that's my problem right there. That is the thing of what I was talking about with the airplane. Like, why, like, how are all these people going to Little Rock at the same time? My limiting belief that there could be that many people.
Yeah.
I would have limited myself to think that there's no way there's that many people. Like, because in my world, there's not, but my world is yay big compared to the grand scheme of things. That's crazy.
Yeah. But with that, what we were talking about, the emails, like I used to be like, oh man, how does this person just have like a Gmail account? And there's so many new people that come into the space that they just start doing it with their email. But then I know a few people that are just like absolute whales that just do a ton of stuff with just a Gmail account, like ibuyre@gmail.com. And I'm like, that's not going to be the determining factor of if you're successful in business or not, obviously, but I get
It's
it.
just
You want to look more
about
professional. You'll be a little more cleaned up.
So like there's a point, bro, where it's like, okay, you don't want to be the guy who doesn't do a deal, creates a company email, gets your website, pays for logos, animated logos, all this stuff. You buy the t-shirts with your logo on it, the hat with your logo on it. You're buying merch. You set up your office. You're sitting there. You don't have any acquisition reps. Right. You haven't gotten a deal yet, but you're like, bro, you are decked out in swag and company
napkins. You like,
yeah. You got the company Post-it notes and mugs and shit. And you haven't done a deal, that's different. I'm just saying at a certain point, like you have to start talking about your brand, especially when like your brand is a company, right? Like whether it's buy houses now, we buy whatever it is, like real over scratch. At a certain point, you need that logo, you need that company name, you need to put that on, you need to have standard colors that your graphic designers use on your like material that you send to your sellers and your contract. Like at a certain point, like you need that. But I agree with you. There's some people out there that do a shitload of deals that just, it just bothers me.
No, I hear you. And I'm with you. I want to talk a little bit since we're talking REI Op Center, getting started, stuff like that. And I just saw it this morning and shot it over. The issues, but a few people have hit me up about it.
What, Lead Sherpa?
Lead Sherpa. A few people.
So you sent that over, and I was very curious. So you're saying that Lead Sherpa got shut down because of regulations? I didn't read any of the email that you sent. I was in the gym getting jacked as usual.
At the country club.
Fuck you. Why'd you have to say that? I was trying to make it sound tough, and then you had to throw in the country club. Yeah, I go to the country club gym. It's because it's like closer to my office. They got a shower there. I run the lake. I work out in the gym, and then I come back to the office.
You go to the country club, work out. They have like an eggs Benedict with chopped chives and a nice yogurt parfait for you, and then you come back.
Oh man, he's only making fun of me for that because the other day I was at the gym and I forgot we had a meeting and I had to hop on a Zoom call as I was walking out of the country club, and him and John made fun of me for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't know. But yeah,
A
that's what I
casual
did there.
country club flex. Nothing wrong with that. And I had eggs Benedict at brunch last Sunday before I came here, and it was fantastic. Pork belly eggs Benedict back in
That's the
Maryland.
only thing I use the country club for. Like we use the pool. There's a cigar lounge, like in the gym. Like that's we rarely go eat there. Like we don't do social. I'm not a social
Mhm.
person. I use it for its function.
Mhm.
My kids are on the swim team, so
Substance over glamour.
Yeah, but anyway, let's go back to this.
Yeah.
So,
So this is an
what is it
email.
exactly?
So we don't know. I just got sent this. I saw the email right. I sent it to you guys this morning, so it was just a couple hours ago. The wording I got from our good buddy Paul DeCampo says that Lead Sherpa got basically shut down. And I don't know what that entails, but I'm guessing that there was some type of issue where customers weren't able to send out text messages, in short, because a couple customers had reached out to me as well, like yesterday, just saying like, "Hey, do you know what's going on? Do you know any other texting platforms?" And I didn't really put two and two together until I saw it. I was like, "Oh, maybe it's a thing specifically with Lead Sherpa." In the email from Paul as well, I'm about to open it up here to you, Papa P. Let me see if I can do share screen. In the email from Paul, he also, can you see this now?
Yeah, this is. I saw you sent this link. I popped it up, and I didn't read it. So, is this like a case against them, or is this just a general sheet about a law or
Yeah,
something?
I don't think this is against Lead Sherpa. I think this is just against unlawful text messages in marketing in any type of industry. But for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube and can see this, I'll read it. I'll go through it quickly. But it says text messaging is among our most popular forms of communication, quickly connecting people to friends and family, businesses to customers, and governments to constituents. But with that popularity comes risk. While unwanted text messages present similar problems as unwanted calls, they invade customer privacy and are vehicles for consumer fraud and identity theft. They also present harms beyond robocalls that can exacerbate the problems of such scams. This report and order, if adopted, will be the Commission's first action to protect consumers from unwanted and illegal texts, requiring that all mobile wireless providers block certain text messages that are highly likely to be illegal so that all subscribers have a basic level of protection. The accompanying further notice of the proposed rulemaking would propose and seek comment on additional steps to protect consumers, protect the integrity of text messages as a form of communication. So, in short, they're looking to block this. What I thought was interesting, just to bring some stats here as we go down, and it seems to me, Papa P, I'm curious to hear. You're an outbound marketing sales guy. I'm curious to hear. This is one stat that I thought was interesting when looking at it this morning, and the angle that I think that the FCC is taking versus people that are affected from our industry is that people are taking advantage of the B2C relationship and either scamming or frauding these homeowners to sell their houses a lot cheaper. I don't agree with that. That's just kind of the angle from our perspective. And here's why I think that. Let's see. One source, for example, or let me start from the top. Mobile wireless providers and others have taken steps to protect consumers from unwanted text messages. Nevertheless, unwanted text messaging is trending in the wrong direction. One source, for example, reports that consumer losses from scam texts were $231 million for the first 3 quarters of 2022. That 231 million was up from 86 million for all of 2020. So quick math, what is that? 3 times as much?
Yeah.
So I think that's the main angle that they're taking when I read through this. And again, I don't agree with it.
What do you take from that, though? Just summarize that.
Is that more texting is going out? People that are trying to monetize the audience that they're texting has essentially tripled from 2020, and it's only half the year. So it's going to be like 5-6 times the amount of these people that are saying they're getting scammed or whatever.
Yeah, scammed is a very loose term, though, Brown.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, I was talking to a lady. I got to call her actually. We were trying to offer her money on her lot, and she's like, I don't know. Everything just seems like a scam. What seems like a scam? I'm trying to give you fucking money, lady.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I'm selling you something and you're not going to get the product. I am giving you the money. I get it, though. A lot of it's how we talk to people and stuff. Like some of these, I was looking at my phone, like some of these Hi, Real Innovative Investments. Andy here. Andy here. Tip: don't trust stairs because they always are up to something. But what's trustable is our incredible proposal for 222 East Edgewood Drive. Reply to no more. Pretty creative. A little joke in there. Another one. Hello, Real Innovative. We're trying to verify that we're texting the intended individual for this. Can you let us know if this is your number? I would have to go through. I have so many of them
Right.
that I get. It's wild because like they're all various forms of garbage, but I just ignore them.
Yeah. It's interesting though, and in this email from Paul too, he broke it down nicely. The FCC views it that all cold SMS is illegal. So I think it's part the FCC, Federal Communications
I
Commission,
agree with them, man.
and the carriers too, because we've talked about before, the carriers and even companies are starting to market that way, almost like the inverse of like, hey, we're here for your privacy. We don't want you to get bugged. We don't
It
want you to get
annoys,
fined.
but that annoys
So it's
me.
almost like the FCC and the carriers are coming from two different angles, which is making things a little bit muck the water a little bit.
Spam. I hate potential spam because it's like, bro, you want to know what I want is for you to put the fucking phone number back on my screen of my phone so I know what the phone number is instead of saying potential spam.
Right.
Because I can at least tell if I want to pick it up when I see the phone number. Because a lot of times it's like I recognize a phone number. Oh, so-and-so said they were going to call me. But when potential spam or unknown comes up, like, who asked you to do that?
Right.
I didn't ask you to do that. I just want to see the fucking phone
Yeah,
number.
let me decide if it's spam. Let me get on the phone with this person.
Yeah, like Jesus. So I don't even pick up spam, but couple things. I agree. So we did SMS 2019, 2020 we stopped. So 2018 to 2019
the glory days of texting.
The glory days. We made a shit ton of money. Mm-hmm. We had our own little texting team. We were using Roar. We were just shotgun blasting everyone, balls to the wall. You didn't even need spinner tokens back then. You were just fucking busting out messages saying, I want to buy your fucking house. Give it to me now. And people were like, yes, here it is.
They're like, yes, here it is. Can I give it to you at 20 cents on the dollar?
Please take it.
Please wholesale to somebody else and make a big profit.
But we got out of it and I got a lot of flack for it. I just didn't make sense to me.
Who'd you get flack from? Your team?
Other investors.
For getting out of texting?
Like, I remember I sat down for dinner with one guy and he called me out on it. And I was just like, it's, more difficult, blah, blah, blah. And he just grilled me. Why? Why do you think that? You're the one who stopped. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, you're the one who stopped. You tell me. And he just was like, I'm like, bro, like, I don't see the longevity of SMS texting. I would rather reinvest my money into things that I can really focus on. And plus, I'm a big believer in focusing on a couple channels, making them good, and then adding on. And SMS is a form of outbound. I believe in warm SMSing. So part of our process, and I've talked to other people too, that with InvestorFuse and using smartphone, is they cold text. And then you push that lead into your CRM and then you text them again. That's just another cold text because you have a VA cold texting. And then all of a sudden you text from another number to that person. To you, it's a warm text, but that person, it's another cold text. So we work it in a way where like once we start talking to you, we start texting. So typically it's like I did some yesterday. When you get to the opportunity stage, you're ready to make an offer. You're like, well, I'm going to text you my name and info. This is my number. You could text me back and forth. That's how we text. We don't cold text. We warm text. So if you don't exist in our CRM, we're not texting you. But once you're in our CRM and we have talked to you, we're now texting you to try to differentiate ourselves from the other people. I believe that is going to be what people need to do. So I'm just going to throw this out there. I think more people need to give me a holler and take my cold calling set up your own mini call center training and get all my stuff to set up your own call center because you have all this data. You can't capitalize it with SMS if you're with Lead Sherpa. So instead, what I've been doing, and I'm doing it for that guy that I was on the call with, I was telling you, and two other people that actually are InvestorFuse people. I'm helping them set up their own mini call center. People like the idea of owning their own dialer, their own list data, their own call center. And it's not a complicated thing. It just requires having the proper onboarding, the proper dialer, the proper hiring process, onboarding process, training, and ongoing quality assurance. And it's easier, but most people always fail at it because they hire a caller and then that's that. And they just forget the quality part of it. So I think this is going to open up a lot for outbound marketing going either to direct mail or to cold calling. That's when you message this, all I saw was shit. I can help a lot more people with cold calling because they're going to need to do something with all that data they have.
100%. 100%. And I'm curious, and this is Paul had good points that I was thinking of too, and I thought of this before I even read through his entire email. But the same thing happened. It's a similar principle of like when COVID started, and some people pulled back their marketing, or I guess mainly that's the main parallel.
You think that if you go harder, you'll do better?
Some people are going to go harder, and they will just see like if they get fined or whatever. That's just the cost of doing business.
100%.
So it's like, hey, if there's more people, if there's a lot of people backing out, which like I can already tell, you can already tell, a ton of people are going to stop text messaging. Like this stuff is going to make.
But that's good.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing for the consumer and for the people who stick around. I think it was like back in the day, people said direct mail wasn't any good anymore. And you make a shitload of money off direct mail. People saying PPC got harder and harder, and people saying, listen, in 2022, people were dropping out of wholesaling because they were saying it's going to get harder and harder and wholesaling is going to die, blah, blah, blah. The laws are happening in Illinois and Oklahoma and Atlanta and Philadelphia. And you know what I mean? Like, but guess what? The people who stuck around, they're going to make the most money. But again, Carlos, there's only 1% of people that will succeed. It's the 1% rule. That's not for everybody. Other people need to go to something else that's easier because that's where their capabilities lie. I mean, I got out of it. SMS wasn't what I loved doing. I fucking hated SMS.
It takes a lot of time. I had a good conversation actually with somebody. It's an InvestorFuse person that does InvestorFuse customer that does 100% texting, and connected them with somebody else that was just looking for some texting KPIs, things like that. And they were like, man, after the one company that just does a lot of channels and one of them is texting, they're like, man, that is a lot of just time, energy, just a lot of correspondence back and forth, texting, like understanding what the text says, data management, all that stuff is just a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know. That's why I like cold calling because I think, and it's just my nature, I think. And I love RVMs. Check with your local laws about whether RVMs are legal in your area. I'm not condoning it. But I love RVMs because I can get you on the phone. Like I leave you a message, you hear my voice, you hear my empathy. And that's where a lot of people make mistakes with RVMs is the empathy aspect of their voice. Like their tonality is not right. It's too spammy, too addy. And then I get you on the phone and you talk to my call center, and which is another reason why I advocate for people to have own their own dialer, have their own call center set up. Like, and by call center, I don't mean physical location. I just mean your own virtual callers. So that way you can run stuff like RVMs and really control that process of where your lead's coming. But talking to people really allows, especially your Filipinos or your Colombian people or Egyptians, to be able to tell through you train them to understand sarcasm. It's a lot easier to understand on a phone than it is through a text message.
100%. Text message is just whatever that person perceives. They're just guessing subconsciously what you're thinking.
It was a harder time to QA quality leads. So we were doing it. I don't think we did SMSing inside of InvestorFuse. We were doing it when we were still in Podio back in the day. But we would block our system, clog it up with a crap ton of these cold SMSs that our SMS team said. And we tried instituting all these rules and QAs, but it's so hard to read into it. And then I still got to get that motherfucker on the phone to talk to them. And I was like, if my goal is to get somebody on the phone anyway, why am I just not bombarding them on the phone?
I hear it. More to the point, better tonality, better sales.
But there's a lot of people, it just depends on the generation. There's a lot of people who don't respond to calls and they respond to text messages.
That's true. Very true. It'll be interesting to see, man. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. We'll see what happens here if other...
But if you have all this data, what are you going to do with it? The only other option is what? So direct mail is really expensive. What are you going to do? You're going to go to PPC?
Yeah.
And listen, radio is well and good. TV's good. But those things radio's not that expensive. TV's pretty expensive. PPC could get expensive. It's all expensive.
Yeah.
People do SMS because it was cheap to get into.
Yeah.
It was the easiest entry into outbound marketing.
100%.
And I think the next level up is cold calling. And if you think it's RVM, you're wrong. You cannot RVM if you don't have your own dialers, if you don't have your own call center, if you don't have your own callers. If you RVM and you send all your leads into InvestorFuse or your CRM, you're going to burn your agents out. You're going to burn your acquisition team out. I made that mistake.
Yeah. Most people I talk to don't have callbacks from RVMs automatically go into their CRM, because a lot of them are going to be like, that's the highest percentage of them not actually
where does it go then?
Just in their phone system, and they add it manually. Like, it just comes back to their call number, like CallRail or something like that.
Oh, and they don't link it. So we run ours. Ours runs, and that's how I always tell people, ours runs directly to our dialer. And then from there, like we train our callers, we call them openers. We train our openers on how to talk to an RVM versus how to talk to an inbound cold call or an outbound cold call. Same thing. So it's the same but different. We don't expect the acquisition person to answer the phone. It goes through them, and then it goes through our QA process.
It's a wise move. Yeah. Very wise move. But yeah, man, it's gonna be just interesting to see what happens with marketing, the market. There's a lot of we're in an interesting time right now.
So you let me know if anyone needs cold calling.
Dude, I would love it. You killed it on the, I don't know if I can't remember if we brought it up last week, but you crushed it on the InvestorFuse customer collab call. Everybody, even my boy Cecil, hit me up after, and he was like, dude, that was with a bunch of fire emojis. So definitely want to have you on there more. We had a good conversation yesterday.
No, I missed it yesterday. You should have reminded me.
I even had it on my calendar. It was like, remind Brandon to go.
What was I doing yesterday?
Come next Thursday. Let me see.
Oh, I had my class yesterday. That's why.
Okay. I think I have it as a recurring thing to remind you to come, just because the call.
You just let me know, bro. I'd love to hop on. I'm trying to get in front of more and more people.
I have it on there.
I'm trying to get more and more in front of people, and talking to people. Like, I don't know. I just think more and more people, especially going into this, it's a tougher market.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've realized, Carlos, it's funny. I think I get more satisfaction out of helping other people, because it's like, I feel like when you have all this information, like I just kind of want to share it. Like I just want to do something with it. I feel like, and because there's nothing more that bothers me than I have all this info, and then what do I do with it? Like I hoard it to myself, and then, what good is that doing?
I hear you.
So I've been working on a lot of stuff. The other thing I wanted to say to you, and I haven't said this, and I've been meaning to say this, is I needed to give you props and say thank you, because you probably don't remember, but it was on an earlier episode, or maybe it was on one of our pre-calls, but I had told you that I was upset with my schedule, and that I felt like I was running around. I had all these meetings. I needed to buy my time back. And you had said, well, why don't you do it? And then I said, well, it's not possible, because I have this morning meeting, I have this morning meeting, I have this training, I have this, and this. And then you said, well, what if we put something like, and you didn't do it, you just said it in passing, but you were like, well, maybe that's something we could put a challenge to you to actually do. And then we kind of chuckled it off. Well, we did, but it stayed in my brain as like this thing where you just kept saying, well, why don't you do it? And since November, I had been gearing my life towards that. I have fired people. We let a lot of our team go as we revamped our processes, like people that we didn't need, that I was spending time with, and like they were time sucking me. You know what I'm saying? Like I have pushed all of my meetings, because I pushed our meeting. That was one of the last ones that I was trying to push past the 12 o'clock point. I now have my entire morning wide open. It has taken me, and maybe I'm slower than most people, but it has taken me 5 months probably to successfully do it. Almost 6 months, I would say about 5-6 months of little by little getting all of my people, like my manager meeting, discussing with my team, like everything is now in the afternoon. I have even rearranged their schedule as they've noticed my schedule has changed. We've talked about their own work schedules and switching them as well, because I wanted my morning back. And like, I have now officially done that. And I like it. So I wanted to say thank you to you, because I had thought it was not possible, which is odd, because I have a saying, anything is possible because everything is possible. But I had my own limiting beliefs to myself. I lived in that world where I said, it's not possible because I owe all these people my time. Fast forward to today, I don't have shit going on till like 12 something any day. Sometimes not even till 2. So I can work out. I can use it as focus time. I can really hone in on it. I can get to the office early and just do my thing. I can spend more time with my daughter at home in the morning instead of rushing out of the office at 6 a.m. Like, pretty sweet, bro.
That's awesome, man. Hats off.
So thank you.
That's big, man. Mornings are big for wanting to help people too. I know you genuinely want to help people. That's just going back to like Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs. At a certain point,
Yeah.
once you're fulfilled to a certain extent, you do get more joy and fulfillment if you take care of yourself. Obviously, always take care of yourself. Always put yourself
Yeah.
first. But then you go through life and you learn a lot of stuff, and you want to be able to share that to help other people, and that ripples out and is just really good stuff, man. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man, I would definitely say so. Like, yeah, I've switched all my Calendly links too for like meeting with Brandon, like when I'm interviewing people to set up for either my skip tracing stuff, my call center stuff, RAF center demos. I have rearranged all of those Calendly links only for the afternoon. Before I felt guilty. Like, well, I have to have my morning start at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. for availabilities for meetings. Like, people are going to want to meet me in the morning. Like, I have to do, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and now it's just, nope. They start at 1 o'clock. They go to like 5 o'clock or 5:30. And those are my availability. Once that fills up, bro, like, you know.
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. What's the best way for somebody to reach out to you for anything?
Instagram.
Just
reach out to me on Instagram.
Cool.
At Mr. Realivative. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way, and then from there we'll see if it's something to set up a call. But anyway, dude, just wanted to say thanks.
My pleasure, dude. My pleasure. I'm glad to see it. We have some exciting guests coming on. I don't know if we want to wrap with anything else today, but I'm excited because we have 2 back-to-back guest episodes. Brent Moreno, one of like the most just deep diving into AI stuff. I feel like every day he's posting different stuff at AI. So he's going to be coming on and talk about AI in not only in your real estate business, but just kind of what he's projecting the future to look like. Again, I would suggest I've watched Terminator 2 and iRobot. Is it iRobot? I have a mental block with remembering the Will Smith.
Yeah, it's iRobot, not I Am Legend. It's iRobot.
I've watched both of those just to get myself ready for some AI stuff taking over. Definitely suggest checking those out. And the following week, we have repeat guest Vince Hall of Call Porter and Ballpoint Marketing and Justin Dossie of Ballpoint Marketing. They put out some hilarious commercials and advertisements. Haven't seen
Justin. Vince is coming back.
So we'll have to get another question I need another question. That was the best guest question. I think we should ask it to Justin.
We should. My daughter asked me one. She asked me one the other night. She goes, Dad, if you had to fight 2 alligators or 2 great whites, what one would you pick? And I looked at her and I laughed at her. I said, silly girl, don't you know I've already thought this all the way through long before you ever asked me that? And I said, and then I went into it, I'm like, what type of weapons do I have? What's my, like, what territory am I in? Am I on their turf or my turf? You know what I mean? Like, we had this combo. And I looked at her and I said this to her. This is my fatherly advice. I said, honey, and she's like 17. I say, if you ever meet a man and you ask him that question and he says he has not thought of that before, he's not a real man. You need to run the other way. Because there are real men have thought in their life at some point what animals they could fight and potentially win and what weapons they would need. Anyone who hasn't, I would dare say you're not a real man, and I would challenge you to that. Not to fight the animals that goes against.
Message Papa P if you fall into that category.
They'll be offended. Like, I've never thought of killing an animal. Bro, you need to. You need to have worst case scenarios planned out.
100%. But yeah, we'll have to get Justin on there.
I feel like we ask him that question. I'd have to find that. Question. I think it's in our group chat.
Yeah,
we'll go back and find the exact question.
We have time to find it. But yeah, man, we're excited for that. Exciting things going on in May. For any Investor Fuse customers, definitely register for REI Hot Shots. It's like our collab call. We're having some great conversations.
That was a good call.
Yeah,
that was a good call.
We've had
I feel like
this week too.
You got to get that. You got to advertise that more.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, so hop on there. We've been having a lot of it's mainly marketing discussions, really.
Because that's the biggest thing people have problems with right now. Going into 2023, it's like, I need to reach more people. How do I do it? But how do I do it effectively and cost efficiently.
Mhm.
The days of just wantonly spending your marketing budget and blasting shit out there are long gone.
I agree with that. Well, Papa P, man, this was a fun duo episode. Anything to wrap with? This is, I guess, we'll have guests on the next 2 weeks, and then I didn't mention in Slack. Talked to Paul Sparks yesterday too. He
Who's that?
does the Whale Club and Certainty Talks with Steve Trang.
What's a whale talk? Oh, the Certainty Talks. I love Steve Trang and everything, but I've tried watching that podcast, and it's pretty fucking boring.
Well, you'll have to share that with Paul because he wants to come on the show.
Listen, if he's coming on the show, I will try to watch and I will try to watch a couple. And I know our podcast has its up and down moments, so I gotta be respectful of that. But it was like the first 1 or 2 episodes because I in my gym at home, like I have the TV, I watch podcasts, and Steve Trang's one of my go-to podcasts. I'll go, who's the guest? And I saw him advertise Certainty Talks. I'm like, oh, cool, like another series that he's doing. Bro, I was like, it was not workout gym type of interesting. And I was like, I can't watch this. Like, Pardon the Disruption is funny.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's a little like ours, just the guy shooting the shit about certain topics.
Mm-hmm.
But Certainty Talks was...
I think it's a different vibe. It may not be a gym thing.
But you also can't hold a podcast first couple episodes against them. You have to, in their defense, I would have to watch some more recent ones because you grow as you go. You grow as you go.
Producer says that's a clippable line there. But yeah, man, we're excited, and this was fun.
Let's bring him on the show.
Yeah, he'll be on.
What does he do? I don't understand. I don't understand the Certainty Talks thing. So what does he do?
I think we're going to save it for an episode. I did just order the book that he has a lot of frameworks from called Rigging the Game, which I guess is somewhat estimating different like floor versus ceiling versus risks in investments, just different things that you can do in life. It's kind of analyzing like home run swing versus just getting on base versus like, in the example that we were talking about yesterday really quick to end here was like here's a very basic example, deciding to rehab a house, like take it down, fix it up for a pretty extensive renovation where you could potentially make more money, but you could also lose a lot more money versus like wholesaling. So it's kind of that analysis, I think, not only for different investments, but just different things that you do in business, different things that you do in life, which is interesting.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I was going to say something else.
Wrap to me.
So I had, there's a lot to be said. We were talking about like picking up properties, what you just said, picking up properties versus not. Like at a certain point, do you feel as if somebody just doing too much of everything, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like you do too much of stuff. Like I talked to a guy, he doesn't have a big team, but he does a little bit of everything. Do you feel like that's a good strategy to go after? A little bit of wholesaling, a little bit of flipping, a little bit of wholesaling. Like, I don't know. I don't have a preference either way. I was just curious because I was like, that's an interesting thing. Like just does a little bit of land, buys the land, holds the land, does a little bit of flipping, does a little bit of wholesaling, wants to do a little bit of wholesaling. It's like, I think about Alex Hormozi, and he's always like, well, instead of doing all these things, and that's kind of where I've really focused my business on is like, I thought about Alex Hormozi, and he's like, but what if you could just do one of those things and grow that instead of doing 10 of the, could you grow one of those to gross more than all of them gross together?
Right.
And the answer is yes. Well, then why don't you just do that?
Right. Yeah, I lean that way. I do think it's a little bit more complex, or a little bit more complex than that. I think it's a paradox, like many things in life. I think the short kind of approach is that, like in general, you should probably focus on one thing until it gets to a certain level, whether it's like revenue or your time in it before you start adding other stuff.
It off though. Like I think too many people do it the wrong way. I think it needs to be where you don't touch it. When you can get to a point where you hire someone to replace you and you truly aren't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't touch property management.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't do that. Brittany does that. That's the only way it works. If I had one more thing on my plate, it would fail like other things have failed that I tried doing too much of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like, so that I kind of heard that is like, Well, Alex Hermosi versus, well, I can make money. They're all in the same. Then you have that other argument which say they're all in that same pie. Like it's just a different thing of the same thing.
Mhm.
It's still real estate. It's just a different version of real estate. So I'm always torn by it. I was just curious of what you thought.
Yeah, I'm with.
I know you're a Alex Hermosi guy.
I'm with you. I think a variable or a piece of that too could be personality type. Like I think some personalities just are better in general at kind of managing, spinning multiple plates or doing multiple things, while some people are better just like on one thing. So I think there's a few variables that go into it that make it a little bit more complex or a little bit more than just surface level. But I'm with you.
It's true.
I'm with you.
I know Ryan Pineda's talked about that too on his podcast, because
Mhm.
he successfully has managers in place of, or not managers, co-partners, owners, whatever, however he sets it up.
Yeah.
But he does the same thing. He's got his hands on a lot of stuff, but he doesn't do any of them. He's passed them all off.
Mhm.
But like there's just a misconception I feel where people try to do all that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Instead of growing the one thing, like you said, pass it off, grow something, pass it off. I don't know.
Interesting to think about.
You definitely don't want to pass up on money, though. That's the other thing. Like you have this deal, you can make double the amount you make if you just wholesale it
Mhm.
or flip it. That's a tough call.
100%.
Tough call.
100%. Good stuff to think about. But yeah, fantastic episode. Follow Brandon on social media, Mr. Real Evative. If you guys are on InvestorFuse platform, definitely join us for the weekly calls.
Hot shots on Thursday at 2.
Oh man, 2 Eastern. 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific. And have a fantastic weekend, guys.
Lock and load.
See you guys.